All right, welcome to Smash Hit Sports. I'm your host, Cody, and Smash Hit Sports is back for this next football season. We took a little hiatus, and big news, Nick is joining the program as the co-host of the Smash Hit Sports podcast. We're going to meet once a week, every week at least. We might go 2 times a week if we got anything going on, because college football gets damn crazy. But Nick, welcome to the show, and let the people know a little bit about you.
Yeah, thanks, Cody. Met Cody through TikTok, saw his posts. He's been blowing up. I think when I found you, you had like 2,000 followers. You're up to
We've
the
grown.
K's, right? Yeah. I wasn't all that high either, but some of you guys might know me from TikTok. Nick During the Day, if you want to toss me a follow. All platforms, honestly. We'll go over that later. But yeah, big sports guy. Definitely know a lot about college football. I pride myself in my knowledge. But again, it's July, so we're kind of going to be learning with you guys a little bit, just because the new season's starting up, and just got to get back into the rhythm of it, you know?
Yeah. So now that we are back into the rhythm, make sure you guys give this page a like and subscribe if you are as ready for the college football season as we are. But off season's been crazy, and we had some news pop up over the last couple of days that is, the more that comes out about it, the uglier it is. Pat Fitzgerald, head coach at Northwestern, has a 2-week suspension for hazing. Northwestern is now reevaluating that suspension to see if it's appropriate. Not good. Not a good look, especially for a program that, like, it's Northwestern, you know?
Right. Now, I would love for you to tell me what has come out in specifics, because from what I haven't been able to see like the actual categorized like hazing accounts, or is it just they're still investigating?
Yeah, so they're still investigating, but specifics have come out. I forget where it's written, but I do have it in front of me. Essentially, teammates would have this hazing thing called running, which was used to punish team members, particularly freshmen, for mistakes made on the field and in practice. They were essentially restrained by a group of 8 to 10 upperclassmen that were wearing masks, and then they would just dry hump them in the locker room. And then
Oh, holy
the
shit!
another thing, so then
Oh,
another thing that they would do, it was would make them stand in the entrance to the showers, like butt naked, like butt ass naked, and then spin like the thing in a damn car wash, and make the other freshmen have to go past the naked spinning bastard to get to the showers. So
um,
pretty fucked up. Not
fuck,
great. Just a terrible look for Pat Fitzgerald
dude.
as these details have come out. Because
What I
holy
had written
shit, dude.
down, what I had written down in my notes was like, oh, like whoever snitched, like, is such a loser. Like, it's freaking football. Like, what? Because I didn't know anything, so I was about to kind of go off on like just Northwestern being dorks and like them just snitching on their own team and whatnot. But that is not what I was expecting you to say. That's absurd. That is the worst I've heard from any fraternity. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so I was in a fraternity. We did little to no
Same.
hazing whatsoever. The worst was like, hey, I need you to go get me a thing of Taco Bell because holy shit, I'm hungry. I was like, oh yeah, sure, whatever. But like that's way worse than any
We
shit I've
got
ever
we got
seen.
fucked up down in Clemson, nothing involved our clothes being off ever or anything close to that. That's crazy. That's sus. That's where I'll
Yeah.
stand. That's just
So
sus.
we'll see if Pat Fitzgerald is the Northwestern head coach at the beginning of the year. I would assume because like he's been there forever. He's got to be one of the longest tenured head coaches in the Big Ten.
Yeah, and
If
that team
I
stinks every year. So
Yeah,
get him out.
but I
Like he should be gone anyway, right? Like,
yeah, that's which the thing like there's also like they go into details essentially like they would call out whoever was going to get like the running punishment or whatever with like a hand signal. And apparently Pat Fitzgerald was also using that hand signal at practice when people fucked up. So they don't know if they
oh,
made the
so
signal because Pat had been doing it or that
Pat did it
Fitzgerald
because
knew
Pat
about
knew
it.
about this.
Yeah,
Oh
so
my lord,
just a
that's
really not
drama.
yeah, just a
I
really
was
not
expecting like
great
because
look.
honestly. I'm not for like hazing, but there like a lot of things can fall into that like
Yeah.
phrase, right? So it's just I definitely was like, oh, expecting some like physical like punishment where it's like, okay, maybe it's a bit over the top, but like if you like it probably teaches character in some sort of way. But this feels like what the hell's going on, you know?
I was expecting like NFL rookie hazing. Like you give the freshmen have
Something.
to get shitty haircuts and they carry the shoulder pads. Like
I mean, I was expecting a little worse just because the news broke, but
yeah,
like I don't know, maybe yeah, like you have to eat a punch from a player or something. Like
Jesus,
like I mean,
just
that's
rocked
way
in the
way
face.
better. Or like not in the face, maybe in like the stomach, but like
Yeah,
that's better than having to just strip nude and run through like a bunch of dicks. So
yeah, yeah. Um, so he's been at Northwestern since 2001. So he's been there for over 20 years. He's been the head coach since 2006. So um,
yeah,
pretty pretty crazy. He does have he's over 500 coach. Didn't know that.
yeah, all right, good for him then.
Yeah, but let's get on to some like better news, or at least like anything more exciting than hazing. 2023 is going to be off season was crazy. We have a lot of changes. The biggest thing is like conference realignment and all that shit. But there's a lot of things that are going to be the last that we see of in 2023. It is the last of the 4-team playoff. It is the last of USC and UCLA in the Pac-12, and the last year that Texas and Oklahoma are in the Big 12. So my question to you, Nick, which of those are you going to miss the most?
Yeah, and I mean, I was thinking about this for a while, and I think really it's just the fact that conferences are probably going to keep changing in ways that we don't like. And I think the Pac-12 is kind of the first to crumble, or at least we're seeing
Mhm.
it crumble. So I'm going to miss having the Pac-12 make sense, and the Big Ten make sense because UCLA going to Rutgers, I think literally next year,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Like that's insane. LA to New Jersey. So I just think it's going to domino effect, and we're going to see some like Cincinnati maybe goes to the SEC or so. It just doesn't make sense anymore, and I'm going to miss the geographic landscape. But I wonder for you.
Yeah, I do. I will miss the geography thing. Texas to Oklahoma to the SEC kind of makes sense. Like at
That's
least
fine.
it's
A&M already in
still
there, so
yeah, but like USC and UCLA is just weird. UCLA goes to in 2024 they play at Rutgers. They also play at Hawaii, which is as far east and as far west as you can go in the sport of college football. It's
yeah, it's
legitimately
like a 10
insane.
hour time difference between the two.
Yeah,
That's crazy.
but we'll see how all this stuff changes. I tell you what, I'm not going to miss on that list. I'm not going to miss the 14 playoff at all.
Oh yeah, I'm so pumped for the 12 team playoff. I've been anti 14 playoff, pro 12 team playoff for probably 6 years. Like
Yeah, I think eight
good
is
riddance.
probably if I had to do a number, I would do eight just because I think buys are kind of stupid at the college level, especially when you have teams that like it's different in the NFL because the buy is advantageous because of your schedule, right? Like all NFL games are going to be at least fairly similar. Whereas like at the end of the year this year, if you look at Ohio State or Michigan schedule, they play a gauntlet, or even like Clemson is playing conference games at the end of the year, and then you have like Alabama will play, you know, Alabama School of Farmers and Children the
Yeah,
week before they play Auburn, and then they, you know what I mean, and then they could also have a break or they play in
right.
the conference champion. I don't, it's
Kentucky
weird.
Wesleyan A&M Prairie View Baptist
Yeah,
versus
but
Alabama in November. Which I get. I mean, I do also think that every single team has 2 weeks and change after the conference
mhm.
championship games. So that's kind of like a double bye right there. But I guess just getting that extra week might end up helping. We'll see. I like the whole playing at a stadium, like at the home stadium in the
Dude,
first round.
that's gonna be
I think that's
unbelievable.
actually like the coolest thing ever. So I like that for 12. You wouldn't have that with 8. And then you
Yep.
have all 6 bowl games. All the New Year's Six games are in there. And I don't know. I just love it. I do think that every year there are 12 teams that, at least in the beginning of the year, I look at, especially this year, where I'm like, these teams I think are going to be competitive and almost
Mhm.
like could fight for a playoff spot. So 12 just seems like any more than 12 would be crazy, but 12 seems good.
Yeah, yeah, I'm excited for it. It's going to be awesome. We also have a lot of changes, like position wise, in college football, because normally there are a handful of guys every year that like you can count on to like come back and be like Caleb Williams is coming back. That's great. Drake May is coming back, but we have programs where all at the same time are losing their guys. Georgia lost Stetson Bennett. Bama now has a new quarterback. Like Penn State lost their longtime quarterback. You have Hendon Hooker leaving Tennessee. There's so much change in these quarterbacks. If you had to pick, I'll phrase it like this: if you were a quarterback that was a transfer, right? You get to start at any school in the country. Where would you be out of all of these, new positions? Which school would you want to play for?
Yeah, which is a tough question because a lot of factors go into it, right? Like I love Athens as a college town.
Mm-hmm.
I've been there a couple times. I think it's maybe the best college town in the country. Um, but like, I don't know, Georgia just feels like a defensive juggernaut. Like I like there's not as much like fame that comes with that position as like going to Alabama.
Mm-hmm.
And going to Alabama would be great. It'd probably be distracting. Um, Again, I think even Clemson. I probably wouldn't go to Ohio State.
Really?
No, no. I want to go in the South. I like the weather down south.
That's fair. You're a
Um,
Southern kid. That checks
yeah,
out.
so I wouldn't want to go to Ohio State. I also don't like Ohio State, so my own bias plays in. Um, but yeah, I mean, I think I'd probably just go Georgia, just because I love the town. And right now, heat of it all, like in their prime, I love it.
That's fair. That's fair.
What about
The
you?
the only thing, the issue that I have with Georgia is like they're just coming off a team where their quarterback just won two straight national titles. Anything that you do will most likely be a disappointment because unless you win another national title, like you are now not up to that level. Even if you don't like have a tremendous, or even if it's not like your fault, you will still be seen
Right.
as that.
And that's
I'm
fair, but I do think that if you pick any team where you could almost get carried to a national title, even if you're a quarterback, it's Georgia, right? So it's like
That's fair.
if you are great, you should win anywhere, especially Georgia. And if you're not great, the best place to go is Georgia because that's the best chance you have at winning anyway, right now.
That's fair. I'm going the opposite of you here. I'm taking Ohio State just because the weapons are insane. You are throwing every receiver on that roster is a 5-star. It's legitimately ridiculous.
Yeah, having Marvin Harrison would be cool, but having Brock Bowers would be
Yeah.
cool. But yeah,
Uh, uh, yeah. I mean, I'll take a unbelievable wide receiver over an unbelievable tight end, but it would be legitimately. And like Ohio State, like if you win there, you are a god. Like I gotta go Ohio State. I guess if you win in Athens, you're probably the king of the
I
king
think
of
if
the
you win,
castle.
if you win anywhere, you're probably
Anywhere in the
not.
yeah, that's fair. That's
Um,
fair. But
yeah. Well, so my thing is, out of all the quarterbacks that are kind of taking over a new spot, or like some names we recognize because they've gotten some
yeah,
action, like Joe Milton, Kate Klubnik, but like this is now their team. And I feel like almost all of these big name schools have a new guy at the helm. Um, who's your favorite? Who do you think has the best chance at like taking home a Heisman?
okay. If I'm gonna do Heisman talk, I gotta go Milton. Just because
Hmm.
what Heupel's system has done, because I don't think people realize, like Hendon Hooker was great at Tennessee. Hendon Hooker was very average at Virginia Tech. Like he was not some standout like transfer in because he was playing phenomenal. Like he was good at Virginia Tech, but he wasn't outstanding. Josh Heupel's scheme is unbelievable, and what Joe Milton was able to do in the bowl game after and at the end of the season, once Hooker got hurt, it is unbelievable. So I think as far as that, and then Tennessee's going to have the games to do it. The problem is that their schedule is brutal. I mean, you were playing Alabama in Tuscaloosa, like you have to play Georgia. It's going to be a brutal going for Tennessee. But I think Milton probably has the best shot. But like as far as like stats and stuff, I think Drew Aller is going to be unbelievable in 90% of their games this year. He's going to be incredible.
Yeah. Funny enough, I kind of ranked mine 1 through 5, and I have Milton 1, Aller 2, Klubnik 3. I didn't want to be too biased. I think Klubnik. We'll get into that when we do our ACC breakdown. But I mean, obviously, I have some biases, but I also have some inherent truths to tell. Then I have Beck.
I love that. Inherent truths. That is such a way to like bullshit your it's not a bias, it's an inherent
No. It's
truth.
something that I've picked up on from going to the school. And then again, as an Ohio State hater, I'm anti-McCord, like I was anti-CJ Stroud, which I still am. But yeah, the crazy thing is, like Texas A&M actually has a higher chance of or like according to Vegas, they have better odds at winning the SEC than Tennessee. Like Tennessee's kind of getting slept on. So I really think that, like from what I've seen from Milton, he almost has like a chip on his shoulder too now, and I wouldn't be shocked if they beat Bama in Bama.
Yeah, I mean he's one of those guys where like he got beat out at Michigan and like had to transfer to find a spot. Like his story, and I'm sure there are going to be some Bama/Oklahoma fans who are pissed at this, but like his story it's kind of Jalen Hurts-esque.
Kind of
like,
Joe Burrow-esque, you know?
Yeah. I think he had more playing time at Michigan than Joe Burrow got at Ohio State, but like,
still like, just getting beat out.
Yeah, but it's one of those where like he could transfer and be phenomenal in the right system. And I think Tennessee has that chance. The thing with the Heisman is, I don't like what the award has become over recent years because it's just become the best player on the best team, which is not.
It's the best QB at this point. I mean, I guess.
Yeah. Which shouldn't be what the Heisman is. Like that, it should be the best player in college football. But if you have like. The reason I have issue, like if Joe Milton doesn't win the SEC or doesn't play in the SEC championship, like it's going to be hard for him to win a Heisman. Same with Aller. Like Aller has to get past Ohio State and Michigan in order to try to win. Like if they go 0-2 in those two games, there's zero shot that he's in New York. Zero.
Yeah,
shot.
which I agree does suck.
Yeah,
but
once you get a guy like Klubnik who could, like Klubnik has if they beat Notre Dame and they beat Florida State, like it's really easy to envision a 12-0 Clemson team headed to the college football playoff. Klubnik's their quarterback. Like that's not something that's out of the realm of possibility.
And this is why I want the 12-team playoff so bad. Like, and I wish that we had it now. Is because that will sort of take away from this issue. Because then if you're Drew Aller and you go in and play a great game, lose close to Ohio State, lose close to Michigan, there's a chance that you're hovering around the 12th spot at the end of the year if you kind of dominate the rest of your games. And then if you're in the playoff, then I don't think there's no bias against you because you were successful. But in a 4-team playoff, if you're finished 12th and you're behind 2 other people in your conference, you're going to be playing in like the Outback Bowl, you know? And then it's like, of course you're not going to win Heisman. But
first off, we don't shit on the Outback Bowl. Notre Dame, most 2022 Outback Bowl champions.
Yeah, congratulations. Yeah, that's a big one. Outback Bowl's important. You get a free bloomin' onion if your team wins.
Hey,
I love the bloomin' onion, dude. Oh my God.
Smacks.
If you ever rank apps, that's number one.
Dude, we'll have to rank tailgate food at some point.
Yeah.
I was thinking about that. Fuck.
Bloomin' onion, I'll just pick that anyway. But yeah, I mean, I'm definitely like Caleb Williams won the Heisman last year, and I think he deserved it. Right? He was the best player. He wasn't on the best team. He's just the best player. I think he actually has the best chance of going back to back. That we haven't seen that. When's the last time we saw that?
There's only been one. I don't know if it's back to back, but there's only been one 2-time Heisman Award winner. I believe it's the guy from Ohio State.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
It is Archie Griffin.
Okay.
Yeah.
So a while
He won
ago?
the award. Yeah. Only player to win it twice. And he won it in 74, 75.
Yeah, which is so
Yeah.
crazy because it's crazy Tebow didn't, I guess.
Yep.
I feel like he was robbed. I guess I don't remember much, but Tebow deserved it. But I feel like we should have seen another one. And I think Caleb Williams has a really good chance of doing it, especially because we
Well,
don't have all these great quarterbacks. Like Caleb Williams is far. Drake May's not winning the Heisman. I'll just tell you that right now. So Caleb Williams, and then who's next on that QB list?
yeah, it's, I mean, it's slim, but like if you look at the odds for the Heisman, it's not like the thing with the Heisman odds is it is very like it's Caleb Williams is the first one. He's plus 500, which is far like the next it's plus 1100 or higher after this. So he is significantly the favorite. But then you have Jaden Daniels of LSU, you have Quinn Ewers, which is a little insane, a little ridiculous to me just because he was up and down last year. Like obviously he got hurt, but like they play Alabama in
Yeah,
Tuscaloosa. That game is going to be a nightmare.
I like
You got
yours,
Michael
but yeah,
Penix,
uh,
like Michael Penix in the Pac-12 is, and then
maybe.
Klubnik.
Yeah, Mr. Cade, which I think he could do it if we go undefeated. Um,
Yeah,
Jordan Travis, I guess, is up there as well. I think he's pretty good. But again,
yeah,
I'm not like super impressed by Jaden Daniels um, and even Penix. Like I like them, but Caleb Williams is so clear in my opinion. And then I like
yeah.
Drake May, but he's just going to be on like a 7-5 team. So
Dude, Drake May's odds are holy shit. They are not good.
I
I
mean,
have to
yeah,
control
that's
F
just
to
how it
find
is, right?
Drake May if that's out there. He's plus 1800. Him and Jordan Travis had the same odds.
Right. Um,
I just don't see a world where like a 9-3 or a 8-4 UNC team
Who are
has a
are there
Heisman
any
winner.
running back? Like, I'm guessing Harrison and Bowers are on the list, but like any
So
Quinshawn Judkins, Braylon Allen?
Bowers is not even anywhere close,
All
which
right,
is I
fair.
got into an argument on TikTok about with Georgia fans about this. It has nothing to do with Brock Bowers and everything to do with the fact that the Heisman will never go to a tight end. And that's not Brock's fault.
He's
But
so
the
good, dude.
highest non-quarterback is it is Marvin Harrison Jr. plus 2,700. And then
I like that
you
value.
have, which is about Blake Corum at plus 5,000.
Corum makes sense.
There's like a group of running backs there. It's Corum, Shipley, Singleton, and Judkins. They're all
Shipley.
like
All right,
right around there.
all right,
I just,
Will.
yeah,
That's crazy. Um, yeah, I mean Corum again. He was tracking towards the Heisman last year, plus 5,000. Sprinkle a little bit on that, and Harrison because we just saw a wide receiver win like 2 years ago. So
yeah, but that was the first wide receiver to win it since 1990.
right, but Harrison is arguably better than Devontae Smith.
That's fair.
Arguably.
That's fair. We'll see.
So we'll see. I mean, I know he has Kyle McCord, who's last on my QB rankings. Um, but yeah, well, let's move on to let's talk about Big 12 and out of the four teams that are joining, who would you rank where? Who do you think is going to be good? Maybe not this.
Yeah,
I feel like this year is kind of tricky because all these teams kind of are regressing. But in the
yeah.
future, you know what I mean?
Yeah, how I would rank them this year is not how I would rate them in the future. This year, I think by far and above the best team that's coming in out of that group of Houston, BYU, Cincy, and UCF is UCF. John
Yeah.
Reese
Uh-huh.
Plumlee is a great college quarterback. I mean, he's not going to go to the NFL or anything, but he's a good college quarterback, and like he will be the best of that bunch.
Well,
I
yeah,
think.
back to back 9-3 seasons, and like I feel like the other teams have lost so much talent, and UCF hasn't. And, like Cincinnati
Yeah.
lost their coach and
Yes.
all their production, and Houston got decimated by the transfer portal, and
Yep.
UCF just feels like they're the same. Like I recognize people on that team, whereas I don't for the other teams. So I have UCF, yeah, and then a pretty big gap, then Houston, and then Cincinnati, BYU, but.
Yeah, I think long term, I would put Houston at one just because you have one of the largest and most dense talent population groups in the country in Houston. Like the football talent that you are recruiting from there, like in the Big 12, you also have Texas and Oklahoma leaving the Big 12. So if you have, I feel like Houston set up well in the long term. Then UCF because Florida is Florida and like the talent there is insane. And then Cincy and then BYU. BYU is just weird because it's like I feel like they belong in the Mountain West
They
Pac
100%
12,
belong in the
but
Mountain West. Yeah. And again, that's what I mean when I say I don't love the conference geographical landscape and how we're tracking. Because even thinking about Cincinnati, Ohio, which is like right above Louisville and like almost
yeah,
coastal, they're like BYU is in the same conference, BYU in Utah, in Salt Lake. Like
yeah.
that's just, it shouldn't
It's
be
like
like that.
West Virginia makes about as much sense as
Yeah,
Cincy in the,
West Virginia and Cincy, like I if BYU wasn't added and it's like, oh good, you're adding Cincy, now West Virginia is not like this weird speck in the top right. And then maybe you kind of get some other I don't know. But it's just too expanded. I wouldn't be shocked if like FAU goes to the Big Ten at some point, and then it's like, oh, you have UCLA, FAU, which is all the way down in Florida, and then like
Yep.
you're all the way up at like Penn State, you know?
Yeah, you're just trying to cover as much media market as you can, which
It's
I
just,
get it, but
I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I might get used to it, but um, it's just bothersome right now, at least.
so I want your opinion on this as a ACC fan, right? You are a fan of Clemson. Clemson was one of the 7 teams. What are they? Did they call themselves like the Super Seven or some dumb? I don't know. I saw it in an article, but
Oh, like the original six or whatever. I don't
yeah,
know what
but
we call
those
us, but yeah.
essentially the 7 teams wanted to leave the ACC. The ACC's media deal is dog shit. How do you feel about the security of your conference after this offseason?
Um, Definitely not great, and I'm definitely not against moving just because in the ACC's heyday, which was recent, right, where you
Yeah,
had Clemson, Florida State, and like a couple,
Miami. Like,
Miami, couple good teams, and then you go to college basketball, and it's almost like 12 of the 15 teams are great.
yep.
And even now in college basketball, you're looking like last year, ACC was the worst of the Power Five conferences. Um, we had Miami in the Final Four, but like that's it. UVA lost early. Like it was just it's gotten so much worse. And I just feel like now's the time to sort of just blow it up. Like we had our glory as a conference. Let's just move around. I'm for it.
Yeah, it's weird because that the media deal is what's holding you back. That had negotiating that to 2036 was the biggest mistake the conference has ever made.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would not. I want to be opposed to the AC because the Big 12 lost Texas and Oklahoma, but they added 4 teams to like kind of more solidify themselves. The Big 10 brought in 2, the SEC brought in 2. The ACC hasn't made a move, but they also haven't lost anybody. So I feel pretty decent about the ACC. They're not in Pac 12 territory yet. And
Yeah,
that's,
Pac-12 is
I think
definitely in
there's
a
a pretty
really awful
significant
spot.
gap
Yeah.
between.
And again, like what you're saying, like you could have 4 or 5 years from now if they kind of wiggle their way out of the deal, have your Florida State, Clemson, UNC, Duke, whoever it may be, leaves the conference. You could easily add some teams to the ACC. Right now, it's like a 15 team conference. Like it could go down to 12 also. Like I feel like it's not in danger as a conference, but
Mhm.
my team specifically, I think definitely might be leaving within like the next decade,
Yeah.
which is
It's one of
crazy.
those where like you were not in the T because what we haven't seen yet is have these big conferences kick teams out or like lose teams. And that's where I think whenever this conference realignment shit finally settles down, like we're either going to have 20 team conferences or some of these teams are going to get the boot. Like and it's going to be your smaller schools that don't bring in a shit ton of revenue. Like Vanderbilt, I'm sorry, buddy, but like if you're on the outskirts of the SEC, like if they're going to kick a team out of the SEC, it's going to be you. Like the
Yeah,
ACC
that's clear.
has, like there are some teams in the
Georgia Tech.
ACC where it's like
I don't think
Georgia,
They don't care there. You know what I mean? Like they don't bring in any
yeah,
revenue.
and it's like I don't like
They just have.
Boston College. What the fuck has Boston College done for the ACC? Like get you the Northeast market. Like outside of that, like not a
Yeah, I
damn
mean, at least
thing.
they have some like rivalries though, like with Syracuse and some of the northern schools. I feel like
Mhm.
Georgia Tech, like, is the biggest outcast. There, it's the vanity of the ACC. And like I don't know, they just don't care. I guess it's in Atlanta, but no one cares. Like I've been to a Georgia Tech Clemson game. No one travels up. No one gives a shit. It's because they suck. But yeah, they could easily go. I don't think their students would care if they went to like the American Conference.
Well, and it's one of those like there are schools that like are great athletically and also have great like you know academics, but I don't know what there shouldn't be you shouldn't have to have that divide. Like Michigan is fine academically, they are great academically and they're great at sports. Like it doesn't have to be this split where like Georgia Tech is an academic institution, thus they can't be good at sports. Like that's bullshit.
Well, I
Like
would say that like almost all ACC schools are good. Like a lot of them are great. You know what I mean? Like Duke
yeah.
is probably the best,
Yes.
and they are good at sports. They're good at basketball, and they have a good baseball team, and they're getting better at football. UNC is a great school. Same thing. Like even Boston College. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
some of them stink. It's just for some reason Georgia Tech just doesn't care. And so I would like to see them leave. I don't know who we'd add, but
Yeah. It's interesting. It's interesting.
it's very.
Um all right, let's talk about some coaching moves that happened this offseason. We'll just kind of rapid fire through these, see what your thoughts are on them. Matt Rule to Nebraska.
Yeah, I'm definitely a fan. Because I'm just like I'm a Matt Rule guy. I feel like he went to the Panthers and was like super dumb there. Didn't make many right decisions. But people forget like he turned Baylor around and even turned Baylor's public image around after all the Art
Yep.
Briles shit. Like he's meant to be in college football, and Nebraska they they're the opposite of Georgia Tech because they stink and they give a shit super hard. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like they're selling out stadiums when they're losing 52 to nothing.
Yeah.
So it's like that state loves their Cornhuskers, and he just I don't know. I feel like that's a great hire. I wish Rayola went there because I know that was rumored for a while. Um,
That would have been awesome
that would have been
for
the
college football.
turnaround immediately. Definitely, yeah, expanded like the diversity of talent because now he's on Georgia, and it's like, God damn it, fuck Georgia. But
Yep.
yeah, I'm pro Wisconsin. I'm pro Matt Rule. I think just give him like a year.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it'll take some time, but I do think like it's gonna be hard to be worse than they were last year. So I think they will at least see like some immediate success, but they're not. I don't have them competing for the Big Ten West, but we'll talk about that in the Big Ten episode. I do. The other thing with Matt Rule, like he was good at Temple. He made Temple relevant. You know how hard that is to do
Yeah.
for Temple. Like it's
No,
impressive.
I
So
learned that Temple had a D1 FBS team like in like a month ago. Like,
yeah, the American. Woo.
I swear to God, I was like, oh, that's one of those Big East schools like Creighton that doesn't even have a football team. Um, but yeah, so crazy.
Yeah.
Uh,
The other big Big Ten hire, Luke Fickle to Wisconsin, and
mhm.
I love Cincinnati. Brother-in-law played for Luke Fickle when he was there, and what he was able to do in Cincinnati was incredible, bringing them to the playoff. They deserved it. They went undefeated. Like they did what they needed to do, and like honestly, they didn't have a bad showing against or they play Alabama or Georgia, Bama. They didn't have a
Damn,
bad
man.
showing in that game.
Yeah, no, it was
And
close at half ish enough.
for Wisconsin to hire Luke Fickle is so huge for the quality of football in the Big Ten because holy fuck, I don't have to watch the Power I and like 10-7 games anymore. Luke Fickell will bring like the modern football to Wisconsin. I'm so pumped.
Yeah, no, I like what I have written down is that college football as a whole is better when Wisconsin's good, just because the Big Ten refuses to do what the ACC just did and get rid of like the divisions, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the Big Ten West with Wisconsin and like your Minnesotas or whatever, it's normally Wisconsin's the team coming out of that conference, but when they're bad, it's like who's that going to be? It was Purdue,
Iowa this past year. Like
I thought it was
Iowa's,
Purdue.
their offense.
It was Iowa.
Oh yeah, it was Purdue.
I thought it was
That
Purdue.
is right.
Yeah. But even regardless, it's always a shit team. So I just prefer when it's like, oh, we have Ohio State, Wisconsin in a ranked matchup in conference championship week. So yeah, I mean, and I do like Fickell as a coach, and I like what he did at Cincinnati, and I think he's a good recruiter. So yeah, they should again. I like that hire a lot.
Yep. And then obviously the biggest name drop hire of the entire offseason, Deion Sanders to Colorado from Jackson State. Were you surprised at all by the roster turnover? Or did you, like, he came in and said, you know, I've got my Louis bags, like, I'm bringing my shit with me. I don't understand why the media was like, holy shit, like, everybody's leaving. Like, this isn't sustainable. The program's falling apart. What is Deion Sanders doing?
Oh, yeah, no, I definitely thought there was a lot of overreaction and, like, people wanted to hate it because we've never seen anything like that where, like, this huge Hall of Fame superstar guy comes in as a coach kind of out of nowhere, right? It's not like he was an assistant before or anything, right? And he gets hired at a big school, and it's like, what is he doing? Like, he's such a popular figure that it was just going to be chaos regardless. But Colorado was they stunk, right? They were a stinky team.
They won one game. They won one damn game.
They were the biggest stinker of all time. So you bring in this new coach that looks at his roster and is like, it's either I gut this shit now, like an NFL team would, right? You know what I mean? Or I like stick with it just because I feel bad for these guys. You know, I don't want them to leave. And then just be shit again still, right? Because then your scholarships are taken up by bad players who can't play. So I think what he did was completely correct. I still don't know how I feel about him as a coach. I don't know. I haven't seen it. I don't know what to believe. I like him as a person. So I'm just going to go ahead and say, yeah, I think Colorado is going to be better than the haters think this year.
Yeah, and I still don't think they're going to be that good, but going from 1 win to 4 or 5 wins is still going to be a drastic.
I think they'll make a bowl game. That's kind of a bold take, but I think they'll win 6 games.
Wow.
Yeah, that's what I have here.
That is bold. We differ on that a little bit. Another hire, SEC hire, Hugh Freeze to Auburn. I'm shocked that Hugh Freeze has a college football coaching job. Yeah. I really am.
No, seriously, what I have written down here is like I thought it was going to be a bold take, but I don't like Hugh Freeze to Auburn. I feel like Auburn needed like something fresh, something new, like something, and they're getting the same thing they always do. Like, oh, this guy has a reputation of playing Bama close. Like, he has SEC history. Like, let's hire him. He's old, and I've never been impressed with him. So yeah, no, that's literally what I have written down. So
they somehow made a hire that was like they're scared to make a mistake, so they make like a safe hire. Except the one like safe hire that they tried to make also like brought hookers into the program at Ole Miss. Like, how do you fuck up the safe hire? They managed to do that. So I don't know what the hell to think about. I think Auburn's going to be better because I actually do think like Hugh Freeze is a decent coach. Like, if you take out all of the off the field shit, like Hugh Freeze is a pretty solid coach. But at the same time, like solid for like that's the standard is he's going to be solid.
Right,
like
solid in the SEC West is just the same as always, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm definitely not a fan of it. But yeah, next, I guess.
Yeah. So Zach Arnett at Mississippi State is one that I wanted to highlight, which Mike Leach passing sucked. Big fan of Mike Leach. I had read his book. It's back there on the bookshelf behind me. But
You read books.
yeah,
Let's
dude,
go. What a
big
flex.
nerd.
Let's go.
Big nerd. Not to, it's like 130 pages, bro.
Yo, oh my God.
Big brain.
He
But
can read.
I do like the Zach Arnett hire at Mississippi State. I think they made the right decision promoting a guy internally. I feel like obviously this is an extreme situation with what happened, but I feel like in today's day and age in the SEC, it's very rare for coaches to be internally promoted.
I think it's rare everywhere. Like, I mean, that's what my notes are like, you don't see that really in the Power Five much. And so I was happy to see it as well. Like, I feel like I know Dabo was promoted from the inside, and that worked out. Like, you keep the culture, you know?
Yeah, and like because Wisconsin didn't do it, they had a chance. They could have promoted Jim Leonard because took over as the interim. He was the DC there, took over as the interim last year when they fired their coach, but they ended up going with Fick. And then like I guess Marcus Freeman, but he was the DC there for 1 year at Notre Dame before he was promoted. So like normally you see these SEC teams like go out and get their coach from another school and poach him, but Zach Arnett, like I like the hire by Mississippi State. I don't have a rooting interest, but like
I don't know anything about Zach Arnett, but I would like to see it work, I guess I should say. It would be cool if it worked. I have no idea if it will.
And then the last coaching hire that I figured we'd talk about is Jeff Brom going back to Louisville, where he coached originally from Purdue. I think it's an improvement but I don't like Scott Satterfield. I don't think he's going to be worth a shit at UC, but we can talk about that later. I like bringing in Jeff Brom. What are your thoughts on the hiring a program legend to be your head coach? Because I legitimately don't know if it's ever worked anywhere.
Right. Well, so right now I'm literally like I'm working for the Flyers, right? And they just gutted the team and are hiring a bunch of old Flyers players as their new like GM and coach and everything. So I hope that, it starts to work for teams. But yeah, I can't think of it happening much. But again, I mean, yeah, Purdue has never excited me, and I don't know much about Jeff Brom, but I feel like people are kind of higher on Louisville than they should be, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Louisville's a weird because their schedule's really weak just because they don't play any of the top ACC teams this year. So they could have a record that like doesn't reflect how good they are, if that makes sense. But
right. They do they play Notre Dame.
Yep.
But yeah, I guess I don't know. I still have them losing a lot of games. So.
Yep. Speaking of the ACC, we will talk about them in the next episode. So this is going to drop Tuesday. We have our ACC preview. We're going to do our first conference preview. We are going to preview every Power 5 conference from here all the way up until the start of the season, and then we'll do like our week 1 preview beforehand. So if you want to see your team be talked about or each conference preview, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Subscribe to the podcast if you want to listen to this at work, or subscribe on YouTube if you want to see our beautiful faces. But the best way to help us is to be a friend, tell a friend. If you don't like this podcast, don't say a damn thing. But if you like it, share. We'll be posting clips on the TikTok and YouTube and everything, and whatever social media app comes out between now and the next time we record. Because holy shit,
Threads and everything.
Now we got Threads. So yeah, but make sure you guys follow us for our content as well. The socials will be posted in the description. So I appreciate you all, and we will see you in the next one.